Today we're diving into Hackney, one of London's most infamous boroughs. Hackney stands out for its high child poverty rate, sitting at 41%, making it the third most deprived borough in London. While parts of Hackney like Hackney Wick have been gentrified since the 2012 Olympics, drawing in wealthier, younger professionals, the area still suffers from high levels of poverty and deprivation. This is Ends Unshanked, raw stories from the Ends, no filter. Stay locked in. We're focusing on two gangs that have been at war for over 20 years, 98s and ZTs. The 98s, made up of Homerton at E9 and Holy Street in E8, came together to form a powerful force. ZT, which stands for Zero Tolerance, operates out of London Fields. You might recognise the name from the Netflix series Top Boy, which is based on a real gang from London Fields.
ZTs stand for Zero Tolerance.
Zero Tolerance's name says it all. They have no room for compromise. London Fields, located in East Hackney, is notorious for violence, especially in the late 90s and early 2000s. At one point, London Fields was beefing with TMD, Tottenham Mandem, and later they clashed with another notorious Hackney crew, LOM, Love of Money, spread across the states in E5 and N16. The tension between these two groups really kicked off when Fox started robbing key players in London Fields, like DC and Hypo. During one robbery, Fox even shot Hypo. Back then, Homerton was known as Balance and was part of the E9-E5 connection code 925. They weren't in any serious beef with London Fields until things took a darker turn. Greed set the stage for violent robberies that escalated into full-blown warfare. Pepe Brown, a 20-year-old leader from Homerton, wanted revenge on two young members of London Fields. His crew, the Holly Street Boys, teamed up with the Square Boys from Clapton. Aaron Salmon, a 17-year-old crack dealer, had just been robbed by London Fields boys at gunpoint. His car and jewellery were stolen, and to make things worse, it happened right in front of his girlfriend. On June 9th, 2003, Pepe Brown, Aaron Salmon and two others, armed with a pistol and a shotgun, drove up in a convoy of 3 cars. They spotted JD, a member of London Fields, and shot him dead at the intersection of Lansdowne Drive and Shubland Road in Hackney while he was playing money up with his friend. JD's death was personal. He was the brother of CS, the boss of London Fields. That's when the war truly escalated. Pepe Brown and Aaron Salmon were both sentenced to life for JD's murder, but the violence didn't stop there. Derek Boating, aka D-Doc, a rising star in London Fields, was adored by many. Tragically, on April 24, 2013, on his 16th birthday, he was attacked in broad daylight on the 393 bus in Highbury New Park. He was stabbed by a 9-to-5 Pembury member, Skid 4. D-Doc was airlifted to the hospital, but was declared brain dead a few days later. He passed away from his injuries. 15-year-old Skid, real name Sean Green, was charged with murder. Sean claimed he carried the knife because he was scared after an alleged attack by Derek 6 months earlier in Meterforce Life for Mount Lindenweed, but the judge Thornton didn't buy it, saying that the jury had dismissed his self-defence claim. The judge made it clear, no matter what the reason was, Sean Green took the knife, stabbed Derek and left him to die. Sean was seen watching as Derek collapsed on the bus. He knew he had severely injured him, but instead of calling for help, he disposed of the weapon. Sean Green was sentenced to a minimum of 12 years. In the wake of D-Doc's death, his friends formed Zero Tolerance in his honour. Some prominent ZT members include Ballistic, Frisco, Psycho, Trey and Asbo. Meanwhile, J-Dot, whose real name was Jeremy Malenki, was another rising member of Homerton. J-Dot had come to the UK as a refugee from Congo in 2004, hoping for a better life. Academically, he excelled as a straight-A student. He was close to a girl named Sana Ibrahim, who seemed like the perfect friend. Little did he know, Sana wasn't as trustworthy as she appeared. On January 6, 2015, J-Dot and his friend Gashi were travelling from Swindon to London by train. Meanwhile, Sana made 36 calls to ZT members Psycho, Trey and a 14-year-old. She had set up a trap. The plan was to ambush J-Dot and Gashi at Hackney Central Station that night. When they arrived, the ZT crew attacked, but by some miracle, J-Dot and Gashi managed to escape. Despite the close call, J-Dot was unaware of the full betrayal, which Sana met up with the ZT members and plotted another attack. J-Dot and Gashi were spotted once again, this time on Homerton High Street. J-Dot was caught and stabbed 3 times in the chest as Sana watched. Even in his final moments, J-Dot had no idea that the woman he trusted was the one who had set him up. J-Dot was pronounced dead at the scene, a tragic loss for the Homerton crew. Prosecutor Timothy Craig QC pointed out that phone records linked Sana to the gang, and CCTV footage revealed she met with them after the initial attack to plan the second one. The 3 defendants who carried out the stabbing didn't act alone, they were assisted by Sana. Initially, Sana was thought to be a witness to the murder, but she lied to the police during her interrogation. When she got to court, Sana claimed that Malenji and his friends were planning to steal drugs she was looking after, and she was just calling for help to stop them. She also told the court that she saw all three boys with knives after the attack as they threw them in the canal. Sana from Hackney, Trey Morgan from Clapham and Williams, also known as Sacco from Woodford Green, along with a 14-year-old from Stoke Newington, all denied the murder. Williams admitted to wounding with intent in a previous incident, but after just 2 hours of deliberation, a jury of 7 women and 5 men convicted Sana and the other 2 of Malenji's murder. Sana was sentenced to at least 14 years in detention. Trey Morgan, who had already been banned from Hackney after being released from custody for a stabbing, received a 16-year sentence. Williams, who was out on bail for a previous stabbing, was sentenced to 18.5 years with a 2-year concurrent sentence for the first offence. The 14-year-old was given a 12-year sentence. Meanwhile, Shgs, a Homerton member and close friend of J. was devastated by his murder. This tragedy pulled him deeper into the gang life. Even though Shgs enrolled at the University of Stevenage, he couldn't escape the streets, frequently returning to the ends. He became one of Homerton's top hitters, getting back at ZT members in revenge for J.'s death. Stokey 16, based in N16/E5, was another gang tied to ZT. On November 13, 2017, Shgs and 5 other Homerton members travelled to Stoke Newington in a white van, looking for anyone they could target. They spotted Khan Aslan, a Stokey 16 affiliate, and viciously chased him down. The attackers stabbed Khan multiple times, and though paramedics tried to save him, he was pronounced dead at the scene 15 minutes later. Shgs was arrested but released shortly after. At least 5 men were suspected of being involved in the planned attack, but only one, Bruno, 24, from Homerton, stood trial for Khan's murder. This attack stemmed from a rivalry between 3 gangs, the Niners, Stokey 16 and London Fields. A week before the attack, Bruno's brother, a member of the Niners, was attacked and seriously injured while driving with his girlfriend. This attack became the subject of a gang rap video posted to YouTube, mocking the victim and glorifying violence. The video fueled Bruno's anger, and he and his crew set out looking for someone to take their frustration out on. When they spotted Khan, they chased him down and attacked. They demanded to know where he was from, and when Khan tried to escape, they brutally set upon him. One of the stab wounds was 12 centimetres deep, and another cut straight through his heart. Bruno was found guilty and sentenced to 27 years for Khan's murder. As for Shgs, even after taking his first life on the streets, he remained free. But it wasn't long before trouble found him again. On November 24, 2017, police tried to stop Shgs while he was driving a Vauxhall Astra. He had no licence, no insurance, and was carrying cannabis. He fled the scene, leaving an officer with a head injury. Police deployed dogs and a helicopter to track him down. Shgs was arrested on suspicion of grievous bodily harm, though 2 others were released with no further charges. It wasn't long before Shgs struck again. On New Year's Eve 2017, he and several Niners attended a party in Islington. A civilian, Steve Narvaez Jara, got into an argument with them after trying to flirt with one of their girls. The situation quickly escalated into a brawl. Shgs and his crew rushed Steve, stabbing him in the chest and arm. The fatal blow pierced his heart. Steve died at the scene around 3:30 AM. Now with 2 bodies to his name, Shgs was still a free man. Meanwhile, Unknown T, Homerton's biggest rapper, was making waves in the UK drill scene. His track Homerton B went silver, marking 200,000 sales. But trouble followed Shgs. On April 4th, 2018, he was cycling through Morning Lane in Hackney when he was spotted by ZT members Tiny Booth and B2 in a Vauxhall Astra. They drew knives, and though Shgs fought back, stabbing B2, he was outnumbered. Tiny Booth managed to stab Shgs several times before fleeing the scene. The attack was so brutal that paramedics had to strip Shgs to treat him. Despite their efforts, he died at the scene about half an hour later. Tiny Booth fled the country, hiding in Africa to this day. B2 was charged and tried for the murder, insisting it was self-defence. He was convicted at the Old Bailey after a 3-week trial and sentenced to 17 years. After Shgs' death, his involvement in the New Year's Eve murder resurfaced. Unknown T was charged with Stephen Narvaez Jara's murder, as well as violent disorder. 2 others, Mohammed Musa and Rahman Boland, were also charged with murder and violent disorder. Shgs would have faced charges, but his death meant he never stood trial. It makes you wonder if death hadn't come for him, would the law have finally put him away for good? While in jail, Unknown T grew close to Digger Deep. Their bond turned into a strong alliance on the streets. After the trial, Unknown T maintained that he had nothing to do with Steve's death. He claimed he didn't punch anyone and didn't know anyone had a machete at the party. Both Unknown T and Borland were cleared of murder, but Borland was convicted of manslaughter by a 10-2 majority. Soon after, Unknown T released a fresh home track and it did numbers, blowing up in the scene. ZT wasn't pleased about this new connection, and for good reason. 88's a ZT member saw Digger D in East London and seized the chance to rob him for his diamond bracelet. 88 then hopped on a track boasting about the robbery. Digger D wasn't having it. He hit 88 with a cryptic DM warning about a countdown. To this day, no one knows what happened to 88. Then, on October 11th, 2020, Dibba, also known as Blacker, a ZT rapper, and Fahim Rahman drove a stolen car to a spot on Homerton High Street for a draw. They opened fire with a Scorpion machine gun at 3 men they thought were rivals. But tragically, the people they shot weren't even part of the gang, just innocent civilians chilling in Homerton Park. Blacker was arrested on November 27th, charged with 3 counts of attempted murder and firearms offences. He was later sentenced to 35 years, while Fahim got 27. On November 22nd, 2020, in Broadway Market, 9 Nasamba, Arthur, Abidi and Scarborough, all members of the 9 gang, travelled to London Fields to film a music video. As they headed through Victoria Park to Broadway Market, rival ZT members spotted them. What followed was a shootout. The gunmen opened fire and bullets rained down. But like every street war, innocent people got caught in the chaos. Natalie Bignell, just outside a pub on her first date, was struck by a stray bullet. She was shot in the neck and suffered a devastating spinal cord injury, leaving her a quadriplegic at just 32 years old. Natalie lost all feeling and movement below her neck. This life-altering injury means she will never walk again or use her hands. She now requires 24-hour care, specialist equipment and an accessible home. While her care is partially funded by the NHS, Natalie urgently needs more support, as she can't work or receive an income. If you want to help, I've linked her GoFundMe in the description. As for the shooters, Rimmel Arthur received 2 years and 4 months for violent disorder, Samba joked for 2 years and 2 months, and Kai Scarborough got 1 year and 11 months. Ronnie Abidi, 27, was sentenced to 2 years and 3 months. Rule Briscoe, known as Shgs, was charged with conspiracy to commit grievous bodily harm with intent, possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life, and 5 counts of attempted murder. He was also charged with possession of ammunition with intent to endanger life for a separate shooting. In that incident, shots were fired from one car at a group of men in another car on Middleton Road. One of the men suffered a head injury and was left fighting for his life. 2 other men, both in their 20s, sustained minor injuries. Shades is a madman and he's yet to stand trial. Hypo, aka Big Hype, was a respected figure from London Fields. Known for his music, money-making and past work, he found himself at a party in East London on June 3rd, 2020. A disagreement arose between Hypo and the bouncer, Bigger, a rapper from Enfield. The argument escalated and Hypo threatened Bigger, pulling out a Rambo. Bigger walked off but returned, armed with a kitchen knife, and fatally stabbed Hypo in the chest. This caused massive issues in London Fields, as Bigger was Tiny's cousin and Hypo was a Hackney legend. Bigger is now on remand awaiting trial. KB, aka Y Booth, was an older member of London Fields who had been active since 2007. He was close to members like Margs and Hypo. Later, KB became involved with Zero Tolerance, managing rappers like Lats and Blacka. On August 13th, 2022, police were called to Forest Right after reports of gunshots. 25-year-old Casey Booth was driven to the hospital by his loved ones, but tragically died from his injuries. His death was thought to be retaliation for the stabbing of Gashi from the 98s, a loss that the 98s had been taunted for. KO, Rico and Hitman from Homerton were charged for his murder, but before that, KO dropped an iconic diss track titled Laughingstock. Known as the best lyricist in UK drill, KO aired out his frustrations, responding to taunts from their rivals. Funny how with a laughingstock someone gets slapped, and a laughing stops, he rapped. Load this 9th and send them Lugas, but they lose their sense of humour. Revenge, he said, has no expiration. Really, it should have been sooner. KO's trial is still ongoing, and that's where the story stands now. As always, I send my condolences to the families of those lost. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.